There is a sentence that lives inside millions of people. They have never said it out loud. Most of them don't even know it's there. But it runs in the background, quietly, persistently, like a program you never opened, but that uses up all your memory. The sentence is this: I don't deserve abundance. Not, I don't want it. Not, I don't believe it exists, but something deeper, something more personal. I don't deserve it. Mess with it specifically. If any part of you just felt a small tension in your chest, a tiny resistance, or maybe a quiet recognition, then this video is for you. Because today we are going to look at that belief, really look at it, where it came from, how it works inside your mind, and what actually happens when people let it go. Not through motivation, not through positive thinking, but through understanding. Because you cannot release something you have never truly seen. We need to start here, with a very clear understanding of what a belief actually is. Because most people treat their beliefs like facts. And that is the first problem. A belief is not a fact. A belief is a story that has been repeated so many times inside your mind that your nervous system has accepted it as truth. It becomes a lens. And once you're looking through a lens, you forget you're wearing one. Neuroscientists call this neural pathway consolidation. Every time a thought is repeated, the connection between neurons that fires that thought becomes stronger. More automatic, more efficient, until one day the thought fires without you choosing it. It just arrives, like a reflex. This specific belief, I don't deserve abundance, doesn't appear from nowhere. It is learned, always. Sometimes it comes from childhood. A parent who said, directly or indirectly, that wanting more is greedy. That money is the root of problems. That good things don't last. That people like us don't live like that. Sometimes it comes from religion, from teachings that equated poverty with virtue or wealth with moral failure, creating a deep unconscious conflict. If abundance is a sign of something bad, then the safest thing to do unconsciously is to avoid it. Sometimes it comes from a single moment, a failure, a loss, a time when you reached for something and it didn't come. And your mind, by trying to protect you from future pain, concluded, the problem isn't the circumstances. The problem is me. I am not the kind of person that gets to have this. And sometimes, and this is perhaps the most invisible form, it comes from identity, from the people around you. If no one in your family, your neighborhood, your world ever had real financial ease, then your mind has no template for it. And what the mind has no template for, it resists. Not out of weakness, out of protection. The unfamiliar feels unsafe, always. Here is where it gets fascinating and a little uncomfortable. The belief I don't deserve abundance doesn't just sit quietly in the background. It acts. It shapes your decisions, often without you realizing it. It might look like this. You work extremely hard, but every time you get close to a significant financial leap, something happens. You make a bad investment. You lose a client. You get sick. You sabotage a relationship that was opening a door. And from the outside, it looks like bad luck. But from the inside, what if you look carefully, you will often find a decision, a moment where you pulled back, a moment where your nervous system got too close to the unfamiliar and quietly, efficiently moved you back to safety. Psychologists call this the concept of a financial set point. The idea that we each carry an internal sense of how much abundance is normal for us. And when life moves above that level, we unconsciously find ways to return to it. Lottery winners who lose their money within a few years, Entrepreneurs who build something successful and then burn it down. People who receive a windfall and spend it immediately on things that bring no lasting value. Not because they are foolish, but because abundance beyond their set point felt wrong, felt dangerous, felt like something that needed to be corrected. There is an emotional logic to this belief that we need to honor. Because this belief, as limiting as it is, was not created to hurt you, it was created to protect you. If I don't deserve abundance, then I never have to risk reaching for it. If I don't deserve abundance, I never have to face the fear of losing it. If I don't deserve abundance, I stay connected to my people, my tribe, my origin. Because wanting more than they had can feel on a primal level like leaving them. The belief protects you from disappointment, from risk, from isolation, from the terrifying openness of a life that could be different. And understanding that, really understanding it, is the beginning of compassion for yourself. You didn't create this belief because you were weak. You created it because you were trying to survive. Now I want to tell you about people who carried this exact belief and what happened when they began to change it. Not overnight, not magically, but through a specific kind of inner work that we are going to examine carefully. There is a pattern that appears frequently among women who grew up in environments where money was scarce or where earning more than the people you love created guilt. They become extraordinary earners and extraordinary givers. Not because generosity is wrong, generosity is beautiful, but because the giving is compulsive. Because the moment money accumulates, something inside them becomes deeply uncomfortable. A woman, let's call her Sarah, grew up in a family where her mother worked multiple jobs and still struggled. Money was associated in her nervous system with exhaustion, sacrifice, and never enough. So when Sarah became successful, earning more in a month than her mother made in a year, she felt something she couldn't name. Guilt. A sense that she had taken something that wasn't hers. That she was somehow betraying the reality her mother had lived. And so she gave, constantly. To family, to friends, to anyone who asked. Her savings account never grew because she was unconsciously making sure it didn't. The shift for Sarah didn't come from a finance course. It came from a conversation with herself about what she actually believed she was allowed to have. She began to ask a different question. Not how do I earn more, but what do I actually believe I deserve? And when she sat with that question honestly, the answers surprised her. She found a 6-year-old girl inside her mind who believed that wanting things for herself was selfish, who believed that love meant sacrifice, and that accumulating something for herself meant she loved less. The work was not to stop being generous. The work was to separate generosity from self-erasure, to understand that her abundance could coexist with her mother's struggle, that one did not negate the other, that keeping money was not a betrayal. It was, in fact, finally honoring her own life. This pattern is different, but equally rooted in the same core belief. A man, we'll call him Daniel, was exceptional at what he did. His clients told him so constantly. His results were undeniable. And yet, every time he raised his prices, he felt sick. Not uncertain, not strategic. Physically sick. A tightening in his chest. A voice that said, "Who do you think you are?" Daniel had grown up being told in 1,000 small ways that ambition was arrogance. That asking for more meant you thought you were better than others. That humility looked like smallness. His underpricing was not strategy, it was penance. He was unconsciously punishing himself for daring to be good at something, for daring to want recognition and compensation for his gifts. The turning point for Daniel came from a question someone asked him. They said, if your best friend offered this service, at the level of quality you offer, what would you tell them to charge? He named a number immediately, confidently, without hesitation. It was 3 times what he was charging himself. That gap in between what he believed others deserved and what he believed he deserved was the belief made visible. He could see it for the first time as a belief, not a fact, a story, a repeated, automatic, well-practiced story that he had never once chosen consciously. This third story is different because it doesn't begin with struggle. It begins with an unexpected gift. A woman, we'll call her Maya, received an inheritance when she was in her early 30s. A significant amount, more than she had ever imagined having. And she spent it all within 14 months. When she was asked about it later, after years of reflection, she said something extraordinary. She said, I didn't spend it because I was irresponsible. I spent it because I didn't know how to be a person who had it. It didn't fit my story of who I was. And so, without meaning to, I rewrote myself back into the story I knew. What Maya described as the set point in action. The wealth was real, the opportunity was real, but her internal identity, her deep sense of who she was allowed to be, had no room for it. Years later, after doing the inner work, after examining the beliefs she held about money, about worthiness, about what kind of life was meant for her, something shifted. She began to build again. Slowly, intentionally, and this time she kept it. Not because the circumstances were different, but because she was different. Because she had learned finally to be someone who was allowed to have abundance. I want to be very honest with you about something. The shift doesn't look like a moment of sudden inspiration. It doesn't look like reading the right book and waking up change. It doesn't look like a 30-day challenge or a morning routine. The shift looks like a conversation. A slow, honest, ongoing conversation with yourself. Before you can change a belief, you have to see it. Not judge it, not fight it, not try to replace it with something positive. Just see it. The practice is simple, uncomfortable, but simple. You ask yourself, what do I actually believe about money? Not what do I want to believe, not what I think I should believe. What do I actually underneath everything believe? And then you write it down. All of it. Without editing, without softening. Let the ugly thoughts arrive. Let the contradictions sit side by side. Rich people are lucky. Rich people are greedy. I could never. I don't know how. It's not for people like me. I'd mess it up anyway. I don't deserve it. Let those words exist on paper. Because what lives in the dark has power. What you bring into the light, you can work with. Once you have seen the belief, you ask it a question. Not, is this true? But where did this come from? Because beliefs are not born in us, they are taught to us. By people who were doing their best. By people who were also carrying beliefs they had never examined. Your parents' relationship with money was shaped by their parents' relationship with money, which was shaped by their grandparents, by historical circumstances, by wars, by migrations, by eras of scarcity. The belief was not created for you. It was passed to you, like an heirloom you received without knowing what it was. And you have the right, for the first time, to decide whether you want to keep it. This is where most people try to skip ahead. They want to go straight here, to the new identity, without doing the first 2 conversations. And it doesn't work. Because you cannot build something new on top of something you have never cleared. But when you have done the first 2 conversations, When you have seen the belief and questioned its origins, then this work becomes possible. You begin to ask, who do I want to be? Not who should I be? Not who does society tell me I should be? But what does a version of me look like that has a truly different relationship with abundance? And you begin, very slowly, to act from that identity. Not pretending, not performing, but practicing the way you practice any skill, imperfectly, repeatedly, with patience for yourself. You make one small decision that the old belief would have prevented. You keep it. You make another. You keep that one too. And slowly, neuron by neuron, decision by decision, the new pathway becomes stronger. The old one grows quieter. Not silent, never completely silent, but quiet enough that you can hear yourself think clearly. We began this video with a sentence. I don't deserve abundance. I want to end with a different one. Not the opposite. Not some affirmation you repeat until you believe it. Something more honest than that. The sentence is this. I am willing to examine what I believe I deserve. That's it. That is the beginning. Not certainty, not transformation. Willingness. Because no one changes a belief by forcing it. They change it by becoming curious about it. By creating just enough space between themselves and the thought to ask, is this mine or was it given to me? If something in this video landed for you, sit with it. Don't rush past it. Let it be uncomfortable for a moment. That discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is moving. That is the flow within. Something shifting, something becoming possible. I'll see you in the next one.